Hi, welcome to Unwrapped. I'm Marc Summers, and today we're traveling across the country in a search for tourist treats. Now, normally, these out-of-the-way treats come upon you as a surprise, but our first story comes at you like a hurricane. Now, if you're traveling in the South Dakota Badlands, you're going to have ample warning of what's coming up. Discover how wall drug has evolved into a necessary pit stop. In the Black Hills of South Dakota, there are plenty of tourist attractions, including the Badlands and Mount Rushmore. But there's also lots of signs pointing to another landmark in the area, Wall Drug. Here, during the summertime months, a busy afternoon can bring up to 20,000 travelers to the sprawling complex in Wall, South Dakota. But it was a very simple idea that started getting them there decades ago.
It didn't really become more than a drugstore until 1936.
That's when Rick's grandmother, Dorothy Houston, and her husband, Ted, used the concept of ice water as a lure to get cars off the highway and into the town of Wall to help their then failing business. And it worked.
They were so busy that first summer they were advertising that they had to hire 8 local young girls to help them with all the extra business.
And the idea of promoting the store on the highway grew with the business.
Ted felt that if one sign had an impact, what would 20 or 30 do? And he started putting up wall drug signs along the highway going east and west. And of course that accelerated the impact.
These days, 350 signs over a 4-state radius draw in visitors for much more than just ice water.
Thank you very much.
Now, this pharmacy is famous for its food.
We have a donut factory where we make homemade donuts. Our donuts are famous. They're certainly famous in South Dakota. If Wall Drug comes up in the conversation, they always say, "Oh, and we love your donuts."
These are the best things I've ever eaten. And they make them right here.
In fact, 2,400 donuts are cooked up fresh every day.
We make the batter, and then it goes into the hopper, and then each Wall Drug donut is cranked out by hand. They cook in the deep fat fryer for a few minutes till they're done on one side, and then they're all flipped over and cooked on the other side.
But once frosted, they're known to cause some friendly fights.
You can't take it back once you get it.
Hot beef barbecue?
Also taking center stage are their hot beef sandwiches.
On a really busy day, we'll serve between 700 and 800 hot beef sandwiches.
But before the beef hits the bread, dozens of huge roasts are slow cooked for about 4 hours. Then they're sliced up in the Wall Drug kitchen for serving to hungry crowds.
We serve approximately between 25 and 30,000 pounds of roast beef each year.
And no matter what you're in the mood for, Wall Drug probably has it. From fudge to ice cream to cinnamon rolls and pies, most of their food has become tradition around these parts, including their economical cup of joe.
Coffee is 1 nickel. And it's awfully good coffee.
5-cent coffee is a tradition at Wall Drug. Our dad, Bill, used to say, "Come to Wall Drug, you don't have to spend a dime, but if you got a nickel, you can get yourself a cup of coffee."
But if you're lured in by the original offer at Wall Drug, well, it still stands.
We still advertise it, and people still come and get their glass of free ice water.
Now, if you're traveling southwest to Arizona, you will not need a billboard to tell you where you are. But a cactus could be helpful. We're going to take a look at how this prickly pear is transformed into an edible candy. Gee, I hope they pull the needles out first. In the Southwest, one thing's for sure, cactus is king. And if you happen to visit Phoenix, Arizona, you can actually get a taste of this dessert diva. That's right, at the Cactus Candy Company, they've been turning one specific prickly plant into a variety of different foods since 1942.
We use the prickly pear cactus for all our recipes. And that's it.
It's the juice of the prickly pear that's used to make salsas, hot sauces, and their signature treat, a sugar-coated, gummy-like candy. To make this cactus candy, they start with 10 pounds of sugar per batch, which adds up. Here, they use about 2.5 tons of it a week. Next, pectin, citric acid, and sodium nitrate add to the recipe. After the formula is hand-mixed, it pours into a vat of boiling water. And after a quick stir with the company's wooden paddle, it's heated to 230 degrees Fahrenheit. Next, corn syrup and more sugar pour in and get the paddle.
We're just trying to get the sugar mixed in real good with the corn syrup over here.
Finally, the juice of the prickly pear adds in, an ingredient perpetually raising eyebrows.
The first reaction that you get is they wonder, how do we get the juice out of the cactus? I believe they always have in mind the saguaro cactus, but they don't know that we get the juice out of the prickly pear cactus. You always have to be careful when you grab that pear because it's kind of a pinchy stuff.
Next, a secret ingredient adds in, creating a unique cherry, raspberry, and lemon flavor that hasn't changed since the 1940s. Once cooked, candy pours into saguaro, not prickly pear cactus molds, and cools.
The reason we ship the candy as a saguaro cactus so people will recognize it's a candy out of the cactus.
And don't be fooled by these small batches. The company cranks out 5,000 pounds of these candied prickly pears every week. After cooling, each candy cactus gets a final coating of sugar to keep pieces from sticking. And then it's ready for the Grand Canyon, tourist stops, and even local airports. And while the use of prickly pear fruit has long been used in the Southwest for herbal medicines or even as a cure for hangovers, one thing's for sure: a little cactus candy can definitely cure a sweet tooth.
Anybody that hasn't tried cactus candy is missing the best candy in the Southwest.
And today we're heading to the Lone Star State, also known as Big Tex, for a taste of what the largest state in the lower 48 is dishing out. And a good place to sample some Texas treats is at the State Fair held every year in Dallas. We're going to check out how this event got started and discover what kind of culinary treasures it's serving up. Welcome to a fair so big and bold, so wild and weird, it could only take place in Texas. From pig races to fried alligator, this fair is designed to dazzle Texas style. The State Fair of Texas has been wowing crowds every fall just outside Dallas since 1886. That's when the first fair was held as a way to draw attention to a new town.
The city fathers of Dallas decided they had a very prosperous, exciting new little city, and they wanted the rest of Texas and the rest of the world to know about Dallas.
Only about 14,000 folks showed up on opening day in 1936. Today, that number is in the hundreds of thousands. And everyone gets a warm welcome from the biggest cowboy in the area, Big Tex.
Howdy, folks.
Tex made his giant debut back in 1952, and he's been the fair's icon ever since.
Big Tex is big, and that's what Texas is all about, and that's what this fair is all about.
Yet there's one star at the fair even bigger than Tex: the food.
Food is a huge reason why people come to the fair. It could be the #1 reason.
This is where some of America's favorite treats got their start, such as the Frito corn chip in 1936 and nachos back in 1964. But the fair is probably best known for another finger food, the corn dog.
Hot corny dog, step right up into the hot Fletcher's corny dog.
Fletcher's Corny Dogs claimed the honor of first putting dog to stick way back in 1942.
It was conceived, born, bred, and happened right here at the State Fair of Texas.
Step right up.
Fletcher family legend says at first, the batter and meat combo wasn't that popular. But after giving away lots of samples, crowds grew to love what is called down in Texas, corny dogs. Today, Fletcher's is a main draw at every fair, serving up around 600,000 corn dogs each year. In addition to old favorites, new foods are introduced yearly. And the most popular additions seem to have one thing in common.
We've seen the food sales go up and up for the last 5 years, and I think all those new fried delicacies have something to do with it.
Those new delicacies include this heart-stopping snack: fried peanut butter and jelly sandwiches inspired by the musical icon Elvis Presley.
We all know that Elvis liked the peanut butter banana fried sandwich. Well, all I did was kind of change it up a bit.
That change includes adding jelly and sending the sandwich into a deep fryer.
Oh my God, it's very good.
In all, fairgoers will be dropping close to $20 million on funnel cakes, sopapillas, cotton candy, and other foods at the fair. And this feeding frenzy has led fair organizers to a new theme for the 2005 event. Let yourself go.
The whole idea is let yourself go and enjoy the food and fun. Calories don't count at the State Fair of Texas.
And the fair is really packing them in with plenty of corn dogs and deep-fried treats going out to over 3.5 million people stopping by during the fair's 3-week run. Gigantic numbers, but that's Texas, where bigger is better. And right now we're going to see how one big company down there is living large with the state nut, the pecan. Or is it pecan? Watch. The United States is currently supplying 80% of the world's pecans, and much of that is coming from the state of Texas, which is good news for the Milliken Pecan Company in San Saba, located right in the center of the state.
Central Texas is known as the pecan capital of the world because this is where it all originated from.
In 1888, a man named E.E. Rishin found a thriving pecan tree just outside of San Saba and began planting and growing an orchard all around it. In 2002, Rishin's great-great-grandson, Winston Milliken, and his wife, Kristen, opened the Milliken Pecan Company and began making over 30 different pecan-based dessert items. And their main ingredient is grown right at home.
The Western Sly, which is one of the most famous pecans known in Texas.
And their bestseller is the time-tested favorite, pecan pie. Making the Texas treat starts with a pie crust made with flour, salt, sugar, shortening, and water. Once mixed, the raw dough is cut into sections and rolled out. And after it's laid into pie tins, flexing fingers work it out, giving the pie its distinctive look.
The crust is then pinched, and that gives that homemade look and feel.
Next, pie professionals create the filling using flour, eggs, butter, and a few other secret ingredients. Once everything blends together, crusts get their fill of the creamy mix. Then each pie is topped with the nuts responsible for giving this pie its namesake and unique taste.
A good pecan has a crisp texture and it has an oily flavor with it. And it also has a very sweet aftertaste.
After 45 minutes in a convection oven at 325 degrees Fahrenheit, these pies are ready for eager appetites. But eating one of the 10,000 pies Milliken Pecan Company is making every year might be a lot easier than saying it correctly.
We hear a lot of pronunciations such as pecan and pecan, but the proper way to pronounce it is pecan.
Today we are taking a step back in time for a taste of the Wild, Wild West. Now, when Lewis and Clark set off to explore the West in 1804, the rest of the East soon followed, setting up towns along the way. Some of those towns still remain, while others have been created to honor the traditions of the Wild West. We're going to visit one right in the middle of the country and see what they're serving up for supper. Looking to be a part of Wild West history?
Here you go.
Well, at Donley's Wild West Town in Union, Illinois, any cowpoke can try their hand at axe throwing, blacksmithing, or roping a steer.
We try and show people a snapshot of what was happening in the United States from the 1870s up until the turn of the century, the 1900s.
This old western town opened in 1974 in the same state where plenty of real Rough Riders hung their hats.
The whole Earp family came from Monmouth, Illinois, and the Hickok family was from Troy Grove, Illinois, which is only about 50 miles from here.
Keepsakes of these famous figures and other authentic antiques from the Old West can be found in the town's museum, holding over 10,000 items. There's also an action show, a gold mine, and even an authentic jailhouse.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star.
Jailbirds can do two things, either sing or fly, and usually they can't fly, so they have to sing a song to get out.
And while 70,000 tourists visit this town every year, over 200,000 people belly up annually at Donley's Old West Steakhouse.
After about 20 years, and we were really getting known as an attraction out here, and we had to have a place to feed the tourists.
And while prime rib and chicken are on the menu, the cowboy steak is their best seller, with over 400 served up daily on the open grill.
It's a good, tender, juicy piece of meat that something would have been affordable to the cowhands back then.
The dining is rustic and the town is authentic. And that's exactly what Donnelly's wants for everyone who visits.
When those kids go home at night, when they're sleeping in bed, we want them to think that the cowboys are camped under the stars eating beans and singing songs. And if they do that, then we've done well.
Rumor has it that the tradition of spreading sawdust on the floors of bars and saloons started in Deadwood, South Dakota, due to the amount of gold dust that would fall on the floor. The sawdust was used to hide the fallen gold and was swept up at the end of the night. Now, the most popular and familiar spirit on the shelves of those bars was, of course, whiskey, or if it came from Kentucky, bourbon. We're going to take a look and see how this drink is made today. Thank you, bartender.
All right, bud, set them up.
If you paid attention to old westerns, bourbon whiskey just seemed like the simple drink of the West. But making whiskey is actually a trial by fire. But the distillers at Woodford Reserve in Versailles, Kentucky are used to the heat. Since 1812, they've been brewing and sending west batches of bourbon whiskey, making them the oldest distillery in the country. But first, let's get one thing straight.
Every bourbon is a whiskey, but not every whiskey is a bourbon.
That's because bourbon was actually created in Bourbon County, Kentucky in the 1770s, using native grains, wood, and a special limestone water.
Limestone water is a very special resource because it's full of minerals, and these minerals have flavors.
To create a batch of bourbon, Woodford first cooks local corn, rye, and malted barley in limestone water from nearby Glens Creek for 8 hours. This emerging product, called mash, is then put into a 7,200-gallon fermenter where yeast is added.
And the yeast will immediately go to work on the grain and start converting the starches that we've obtained from the grain that have been converted to sugar into alcohol.
After 7 days, fermenting is complete, and the product left in the tank is called beer.
And at that point, the beer needs to be distilled because the distillation process will separate alcohol from yeast, water, and grain.
But at Woodford, distillation means distilling not just once or twice, but 3 separate times. The liquid refines in each of these copper pot stills for around 8 hours, transforming beer into a crystal clear 158 proof spirit. And the copper has an added benefit as well.
And copper actually erodes every time we run our stills. A little bit of the still erodes into the whiskey, giving it a bit of flavor.
Next, clear whiskey pumps into handmade 53-gallon white oak barrels, which will magically turn the clear liquid with time into a deep caramel color. It has this ability because prior to filling, each barrel gets toasted, a process converting the natural oak chemicals into vanilla and tannins. Then barrels move on to the char tunnel, where they really feel the burn with fire shooting into each one.
At those high temperatures, the cellulose part of the wood turns into natural sugars, which are caramelized, and they give us additional flavors and colors.
Once the burnt barrels are filled with whiskey, they sit for several years in a dry heated warehouse, finally becoming bourbon. Once properly aged, barrels are tapped and bourbon is put into clear glass bottles. And while Woodford may be the oldest distillery in Kentucky, they're also the slowest, with only 5,000 bottles of small batch super premium bourbon bottled every day. But that's just fine by them because it's fast in other ways.
Woodford Reserve is the fastest growing whiskey, not only bourbon, but whiskey in the United States of America and now in the world.
And today we're going to head down south to find some local favorites, like these biscuits, the bread of the South. Making traditional Southern biscuits is an art, and in Charleston we found a mother-daughter duo to show us all of their secrets. In Charleston, South Carolina, mother-daughter team Callie White and Carrie Morey know the key to a great Southern meal is in the biscuit.
A good Southern biscuit is when you open it, you want it to just be steaming and fluffy and light on the inside. And you want it to be crunchy and crusty on the top.
In 2005, they introduced Callie's own recipe to the public with the start of Callie's Charleston Biscuits.
Probably the #1 biscuits I've ever had. Sorry, Mom.
Callie hand makes 4 flavors of her rustic Charleston biscuits: classic Southern buttermilk, cheese, ham, and cinnamon. Each flavor is based on the first few ingredients: self-rising flour, butter, and cream cheese.
We're good Southerners and we love butter, but we also use cream cheese in our biscuits, which is kind of distinctly different.
It gets worked by hand to just the right consistency.
Biscuits are real simple. But the process is very important because if you overwork a biscuit, it's going to be a bad biscuit.
Then each flavor gets its added ingredients. To get the buttermilk mixed in good, a hole is scooped in the center of the dough, and the bakers dig in. The dough gets a light rollout and quick cut, and in the South, size matters.
True home Southern biscuits are made small and not like the public has grown to know them through the fast food business.
Before hitting the ovens, the bite-sized biscuits get a brushing of more butter.
We're always afraid that people won't know if they're not from the South to eat their biscuits with butter. So this is a little bit of insurance.
The biscuits are baked up, cooled, then get a quick freeze. This is where the buttermilk and cheese biscuits are finished. But that's not the case with the ham and cinnamon flavors. Callie chops up fresh country ham to add to the baked biscuits.
We slice them and we spread them with a little mustard butter. Never too much butter in the South. And then we put our chipped country ham. The cinnamon biscuits, a similar process. We fill them with the cinnamon, sugar, butter, and then put them back together.
Callie's Charleston biscuits are available at a few shops in the South, but they do most of their business on the net.
When you order biscuits from calliesbiscuits.com, they arrive to you second-day air in a foam cooler and they're completely frozen.
Callie's turns out more than 4,000 biscuits a day, but Callie and Carrie have even bigger goals for the future.
Biscuits are tasty.
The South knows that. Now what we want to do is let the rest of the country know that.
Another Southern staple is called gumbo. It's the Creole equivalent of stew. It's rice, seafood, vegetables, and spices, but everybody seems to have their own recipe, including one of America's musical legends. It's singer Smokey Robinson, and he's got the scoop on his very own gumbo bowls that make you sing and dance like crazy.
To make good gumbo is an art.
Smokey Robinson knows something about being an artist. The R&B legend has written more than 4,000 songs, but this soul man has a passion for soul food too, and decided to start selling it.
I'm a gumbo connoisseur. I love gumbo. Gumbo is one of my favorite dishes of all times.
Smokey teamed with a company called Food Source to produce his own gumbo recipes.
He brought his recipes and wanted to be able to produce them on a mass scale and share them with all his fans and those people who aren't his fans who just enjoy good food.
And in just 2 years, Smokey's is already making an impact in the frozen food aisle.
Our gumbo is some of the best gumbo I have ever eaten.
Takes about 3 hours to make a batch, and it starts early in the morning with the chicken. It's marinated in what would be a 2-hour process, except for this supersized marinating machine, which can reduce the time to less than 10 minutes.
What happens here is the chicken and the marinade go in, and a vacuum is drawn, and it pulls that marinade right into the chicken.
Then, the chicken is sent through an oven for poaching. At the same time, they're starting to make the base of the gumbo.
For one 5,000-pound batch of gumbo, we have approximately 600 to 700 pounds of spices.
The liquid spice mixture is allowed to simmer and blend for several hours. Then, they mix it with the rice.
The rice is one of the most important components of gumbo. It has to be cooked al dente, and that's to where the rice still has a firm texture. It's not too mushy.
Next, they blend in the chicken and sausage and start pouring it into the bowls.
The very last thing to go into the bowl is extra shrimp to ensure the customer is getting exactly what they paid for.
And that's exactly 4 shrimp per bowl. They're sent off to be sealed and frozen and shipped to grocery stores the very next day. So while you probably won't eat a meal with the music legend, you can let him serve you dinner. Up next, you've heard of a crawfish, but how about a craw-tater? Get the story on this Southern snack. Today we're rolling the dice and strolling the strip as we explore the tastes of Las Vegas. Today, Vegas is one of the fastest growing cities in America, as well as attracting over 37 million visitors annually. Now, according to surveys, only 5% of those asked said they'd come to gamble. So that leaves a lot of room for eating. And one company has taken its chocolate roots and planted them out in the desert. Check out what's made Ethel M's grow. Not far from the bright lights of the Vegas Strip lies one of the world's largest succulent gardens. But while thousands of visitors a year peruse the garden, this is not what draws them here. For this spot of desert is also home to a small gourmet candy company created by a big-name chocolate maker.
Forrest Mars Sr., who really drove the progress of Mars, the national Mars candy brand, retired and came out to Las Vegas. And Forrest, who had chocolate running through his veins, said, I can't stay retired long. I've always really wanted to be in the gourmet chocolate business. And so Forrest started Ethel M Chocolates back in 1981.
The name came from Forrest's biggest supporter, his mom, Ethel. And today, the Lone Factory produces 350 tons of gourmet chocolate a year for distribution around the world. That's a lot of chocolate considering most of the work at Ethel M's is done by people, not machines.
The people, their knowledge, their training, the fact that they have a lot of tenure and have been making chocolate for us, in some cases for decades, we think that's really what distinguishes Ethel M chocolates in the marketplace.
Nowhere is this better demonstrated than in the making of one of their most popular candies, the Almond Butter Crisp. First, secret portions of sugar and lots of butter melt together in a copper kettle, which is the most efficient conductor of heat. Next, almond pieces add in, and the 3 ingredients mix together, creating a hot almond butter toffee. Then, the batch gets a lift.
2 of our chocolatiers take the copper kettle and they spread it out onto this great big metal tin table, which is a cooling table.
These tables keep cool by controlling a flow of 45-degree water running through pipes under the table. Next, cool toffee is cut by hand, separated, and loaded onto a conveyor belt. Then, toffee chunks pass through a machine called an enrober, covering them in rich chocolate. Next, the wet nuggets fall into a bed of chopped almonds. From here, crisps go in different directions. Some are boxed for bulk sale or are wrapped in aluminum foil. Others find themselves in the assorted box assembly line where each worker is responsible for placing the correct candy in its proper tray and then passing it along. And they're making all this candy in a fishbowl of sorts. Through large windows, tourists stream by this Las Vegas attraction, observing the day-to-day production of some of their favorite candies.
Sometimes we literally have to drag people out of here because they say, this place, I've died and gone to heaven.
But what tour would be complete without free samples of freshly made chocolate?
We call it quality control to make sure what you're seeing through the glass is as good as you think it is.
Right now we're going to take a look at how a candy company has created some dice guaranteed to turn up lucky every time. How do you roll them? After a trip to Las Vegas, many may feel like a sucker of sorts. But this might not be a bad thing if they're talking about a square dice confection called the Sin City Sucker, created by Kenny Horowitz in 2003.
My daughter at the time was eating a lollipop and I had a dice in one hand and I kind of put 2 and 2 together and said, that's gonna work.
But any die wouldn't do. Kenny wanted his candy, like real dice, to have 6 straight sides.
Our lollipops are unique because of their shape.
There are no other cube dice lollipops out there. We researched and picked up and rolled and drilled holes in real dice, put them on lollipop sticks, and tried to taste them, see how they fit in our mouths. Came up with the square design that we currently have.
The entire process of making Sin City Suckers takes about 2 hours. First, hard candy syrup is created by boiling sugar, citric acid, corn syrup, and water to 300 degrees Fahrenheit.
If you go above 300, you start getting into the caramelization of the sugar. The sugar will actually start turning more of a yellow color.
Next, coloring and flavoring stir into the mix carefully.
If you overstir too much, you're going to incorporate air bubbles into the product.
While the syrup cools slightly, sucker sticks are prepared by placing them into specially designed racks.
We designed a rack system to allow us to actually place the sticks into the center of each mold cavity to produce the diced lollipop.
Next, syrup pours into a special silicone mold that's imperative in making the unique cube shape.
When you're creating a mold, normally a square needs to have slanted sides, otherwise it won't release from the mold. The silicone bends.
Bending loosens the lollipops, allowing for easy removal once they harden. Silicone molds also allow for cavities to be placed in the dice so that the dots may be added.
We make about 1,000 lollipops a day, which means our workers are making between 15 and 20,000 dots every day.
Finally, after the dots are dry, suckers get a wrapping in plastic and roll out to the Las Vegas Strip and around the country. Sin City Suckers currently sells about 20,000 of their lucky lollies every month. But who's buying them?
People buy them to just have a little souvenir from their trip to Vegas. They buy them for the wedding favors. They buy them for party favors, poker night, bunko night, anyone who just wants to take a gamble.
And today, we're flying to the 50th state for a taste of Hawaii and all things tropical. And we're going to start with a treat that folks stateside go nuts for. Macadamia nuts. Discover where these crunchy treats got their start and see how they get the sweet treatment today. Growing among the lush landscape of Hawaii's Big Island is a tree with a most bizarre-looking fruit. But inside this lime-like ball is a nut like no other. The macadamia nut is famous for being both crunchy and creamy, all at the same time. Originally discovered in Australia, the macadamia tree was named for John McAdam, a scientist and early promoter of what was first called the Queensland nut. In 1881, the first macadamia tree came to Hawaii, where it was primarily used as an ornamental plant. In fact, the nuts were so hard to crack that for generations, no one knew that a delicious treat was hidden inside.
The macadamia has the world's hardest shell. It's harder than hickory.
It wasn't until the 1920s that scientists discovered an easier way to crack this tough nut. Once they did, orchards of the tasty trees were planted in Hawaii's rich volcanic soil. Today, 90% of the world's macadamia nuts grow in Hawaii, many on the slopes of the still active Mauna Loa volcano.
Mauna Loa erupts from time to time, pretty regularly as a matter of fact. Fortunately, our orchards are not close to where the active zone is now, so we're very much insulated.
With nearly 10,000 acres of orchards, Mauna Loa Nut Corporation is the largest producer of macadamia nuts in the world. But the trees take some time to get growing. Once the nuts mature and ripen, they naturally fall to the ground for harvesting and are taken to the Mauna Loa processing plant in Hilo, Hawaii. Here, nuts dump into a sorting machine, removing any debris and shucking off the nut's outer green husk. Next, the nuts, still in their shells, are sent to drying, where they'll get their crunch. Steam powers massive dryers, blowing hot air over the nuts. This 10-day process makes it easier to crack the macadamia's super tough shell. Once ready, special cracking rollers shatter the shell without damaging the precious nut kernel inside.
It takes around 300 pounds per square inch to crack it.
Once the nut meat is free, it bounces through 4 different types of sifters, removing broken shells. Believe it or not, those discarded shells actually power this entire factory.
We burn the shell and we can produce enough electricity to run our power plant.
The fresh white macadamia kernels get a quick washing before heading into the roaster. By dry roasting, it brings out the nut's flavor, color, and crunchiness.
Macadamia in the raw state tends to be a little bland.
After roasting, workers hand inspect nuts, sending the majority to be salted. Another popular pairing is macadamia and chocolate. The nuts sit nesting atop a bed of chocolate and then receive a smothering of the sweet stuff. In all, Mauna Loa produces about 7 million pounds of macadamia nuts every year, making it one of the most popular exports from this island paradise.
So many of the tourists that visit Hawaii would buy them for gifts, which would go out in what we call a suitcase industry. They go out in people's suitcases.
Aboriginal Australians used macadamia nuts in their diets for thousands of years before they were grown commercially in Australia and Hawaii, where it's warm. Speaking of the heat, we're going to beat it with a little ice, some Hawaiian ice. Find out what sets this treat apart from a snow cone and visit one of the coolest places in the islands. See how they serve it up. Surf's up on the north shore of Oahu, a paradise famous for some of the greatest surfing in the world. But to the locals, it's also home to a famous icy treat.
This is a shave ice. They're very popular in Hawaii.
In the town of Haleiwa, Matsumoto Shaved Ice started in 1951 as a grocery store. But today, people line up for one thing only, a treat hailing from the Far East.
Shave ice was brought over by the Japanese immigrants when they, I guess, worked on the sugar plantation or the pineapple fields.
To many, it might look like a snow cone, but there is a major difference in texture.
It's creamy. I don't know how they did it with ice, but it's creamy.
A lot of people come in here and they're surprised at the texture because snow cone in the mainland is more like a crunchy ice, but like shave ice is more like a fine texture.
And it's not just what's on top that makes this conical creation different. Inside the cone, you can order ice cream or Japanese azuki beans. When cooked in sugar, beans add a chewy layer, especially when combined with ice cream. When the cone has its base, it's time to catch a wave of shavings on top. 3-pound blocks of ice press against a rotating blade, giving off a snowy stream. The ice is softly layered onto the rotating cone at a 45-degree angle. When it's big and fluffy, a few hard taps packs it tight. But the ice has to be just right.
If the texture is too fine, then when we put the flavor on it, it won't seep down.
When it comes to flavors, there's 25 to choose from, including root beer, vanilla, orange, lime, and coffee. There's also tropical tastes like guava and a passion fruit called lilikoi. And while strawberry's the biggest seller, most people like to mix it up.
I got the Hawaiian, coconut, pineapple, and banana.
No matter the flavor, there's a technique to eating shave ice. Starting with spooning, then moving into sipping.
Make sure that you use the straw to kind of sip some of the syrup out, or not, it's just going to keep on overflowing.
And on a busy day, an avalanche of shave ice goes out the door, topping 1,000 individual servings.
Thank you.
Today we're going to hit the road and head west for a taste of the City of Angels, Los Angeles. It's a thriving metropolis of 88 independent cities covering 1,000 square miles. And it's also the home of movie studios and television lots that feed the celebrity machine. But what does it take to make food the star? Well, time for a crash course. Lights are shining, the camera is ready to roll, and props are in place. But where's the star? Well, look a little closer, because for this shoot, the prop is the star. And it's all taking place at Food Fanatics in Los Angeles, where veteran food stylist Denise Vivaldo is educating others on how food can steal the show.
Food styling is preparing food for the camera. It's just like a makeup artist is to a movie star. Food needs to be heightened, the color of it, the contrast of it, the design of it, so that it looks lively and fresh and you create movement in the work.
Since 2002, Denise has been teaching students to prepare food for print, film, and television shoots.
Sometimes it's really, really hard when you're standing in the kitchen looking at a 45-degree angle down on the food, which isn't even the angle the camera's looking at it, until you get the stuff under the camera.
However, students at Food Fanatics learn much more than just touching up food.
Food styling, like anything else, is a business. You have to develop a client list. You have to have some cooking skills. You need to know how to sell yourself so that you can produce a client list. And then on the last day, we meet here at the studio, and the students actually produce a piece of film that they can use for their portfolio.
Today, Denise has students creating stuffed pastries for a print ad.
Don't be timid.
And one of the key lessons students must learn is that styling food for a camera is not like styling food for a table. This food must hold up under hot lights. But years of experience have taught Denise a trick or two.
If you're building a salad, you might have at the bottom of the bowl an ice pack, or you've made one of those like a blue gel, and that will keep the lettuces fresh and cold. An overall trick to food styling is the food is very undercooked, and that way it doesn't shrivel and shrink.
In order to get the best shot, food stars, like their human counterparts, also have stand-ins doing their dirty work when blocking the scene.
And that can take a little bit of time, and by the time you get done with that, then that stand-in food can look pretty tired.
When the photographer is ready, the star, or hero as it's called in the biz, is escorted to the set. After a little primping,
can you turn it counterclockwise a little bit, maybe? Okay.
The pastry is ready for its close-up.
Yes, I like that.
After the shoot, the photographer and stylist study the images.
I think that's perfect.
The lighting is good, the berries are glowing, and the pastry looks delicious.
I think it's great. It's light and airy, and I would eat that.
Unfortunately, because of the heat and the fact that it's not really cooked, this pastry is unfit for eating and is thrown away, thus ending its 15 minutes of fame. But in this town, 15 minutes can be plenty.
Only in LA can food be as big a star as the talent that's eating it.
Now, Southern California may dominate when it comes to the TV and film industry, but another dominating force in California is the earthquake. In fact, California has about 17,000 minor earthquakes a year. But check out a much better kind of shake and see how they're going to put an LA spin on the original flavors. Okay, what happens when you combine ice cream, a bunch of fruit, and the San Andreas Fault? The punchline? A California shake, of course.
There you go. Thank you. Fantastic.
They're also the name for the shakes made at the Land of Fruits and Nuts, a store specializing in California produce since 1994. And though the shop is small, it's on a big boat. The Queen Mary anchored in Long Beach Harbor, just south of LA. Each day, tons of tourists come to see the ship and stay for one of the dozens of shakes available before returning to shore.
The tour guides tell the customers come in. And that's why we say we're world famous, because every week hundreds of people from all over the world come in and have a milkshake.
Store owner and milkshake maker Russ Cuno came up with a unique shake recipe because he wanted a new way to serve up famous California products like almonds and dates.
The concept of the California shake is to have California dried fruits and nuts and California's famous ice cream and milk from contented cows. It's all California.
And Cuno says the secret to making thick shakes is not just what goes into the mix, but what doesn't.
Our slogan here is our shakes don't suck. And no ice, no fluffy ice cream, no ice milk, no water.
Instead, a dense local ice cream called Thrifties combines with flavored syrups and very little milk.
For instance, when we made the apricots and almond shake, put in California apricots and California almonds and then amaretto syrup. A little bit of milk so it's nice and thick. And then we blend it.
Mr. Milkshake figures he's served up thousands of shakes over the years to tourists, loyal locals, and even a movie star or two. And while he's always experimenting with new flavors, the menu does boast close to 100 varieties already.
Thank you very much, sir.
The The Land of Fruit and Nuts is also offering smoothies on the menu, but visitors aren't exactly encouraged to try one.
People come to California, they want a smoothie, and I'm Mr. Milkshake, and so it's about milkshake. So it's my job to talk them out of a smoothie, and usually I do.
Today we're heading to Hollywood for a look at starring snacks synonymous with Cinema City. And they're no bigger stars than those on the silver screen. They get their name in lights, and in our first case, they also get them in cookies. We're going to visit a bakery turning Hollywood's famous faces into a culinary creation. Take a look at this. It's Hollywood's biggest night at the movies. And every year, a new crop of actors and actresses are honored at the top of their game. But far from the Walk of Fame, one woman is paying her own tasty tribute to the night's nominees.
I truly enjoy watching the Oscars. I love it.
Besides being a huge fan, Eleni Giannopoulos is the cookie creator to the stars. A few years ago, she started making nominee cookies at her upscale New York bakery.
Every year, my husband and I have Oscar parties, and I think that's how the idea originated, because obviously if I were to have a party, it would be imperative that the dessert be outrageous.
For Eleni, that means elaborately decorating cookies to look exactly like the nominees.
We hired an illustrator to do these unique drawings.
Now you can take a bite out of Bill Murray, snack on Sean Penn, lunch with Jude Law, or even dunk Johnny Depp. The Best Actress nominees also get idolized in icing, from Charlize Theron to Diane Keaton. But for some reason, the guys have got the goods.
This year, the actor tin is way outselling the actress tin. I think it has a lot to do with Johnny Depp.
But to have celebrity cookies ready for nomination day, Eleni has to do a little predicting of her own.
We had our illustrator all lined up, ready to go. We had her making some of the illustrations in advance. I felt really good about Diane Keaton, but I made a mistake and went forward with Nicole Kidman.
Eleni's also honors the Best Picture nominees with an edible clip from each movie. And of course, there's an envelope cookie to announce the winners. To make this edible art, they begin with simple sugar cookie dough. After it's mixed and rolled flat, the shapes are cut out and baked. Once cool, the real fun begins.
The process would be that you take that square sugar cookie and you outline it in a stiff icing so that you have a border to trap your flood or your loose icing.
Then the star sketches print out on edible paper that's made from sugar. The pictures are peeled off and patted onto wet icing.
And then we highlight them in a glittery sugar to add a little sparkle to each face.
Besides giving some celebrities a massive sugar rush, Eleni's cookies are also smashing box office records at the bakery during their limited run between the time the nominations are announced and the day of the ceremony.
We sell 100 and some odd tins of these Oscar-inspired cookies a day, and over the past week have not been able to stock them to meet the demands of the customers, which is really fun.
And even though I wasn't nominated this year, Eleni's decided to humor me just a little. Now for something just a bit cooler in Tinseltown. If you're headed to the theater, you may pick up this treat, which in French means good, good. It's the bonbon, and we're taking you backstage to see how this movie munchie is made and find out how it moved into the Metroplex. They may be short and stubby, but they often play a leading role at the movies. They're bonbons, ice cream treats that have long been acting as a sweet staple at the cinema.
Bonbons were first available in select movie theaters in the late 1950s.
In fact, bonbons were sold in theaters before they were even sold at stores. And leave it to Hollywood to crave such a rich candy.
You can't get any more creamier than ice cream as a center with a chocolate coating.
But the origination of these sweet delicacies has European roots.
There was a gentleman by the name of Pat DeSico, and he was vacationing in Italy. And while in Italy, he observed individuals making these chocolate-covered ice cream treats. He eventually formed the Bonbon Company in 1950, and the Bonbon was born.
The cinematic sweets get going at the Dreyer's plant in Bakersfield, California. Here, dollops of ice cream deposit onto chilled trays.
You want to get those trays nice and frozen so that the ice cream won't stick.
Next, the cool treats travel into a 20-degree hardening tunnel where they circle 20 times. Then they head under a curtain of chocolate for their cocoa coating. And in this batch of crunch bonbons, the wall of chocolate includes rice candy as well. Next, the candies surf towards the packaging line where they drop into tubs. It takes about 35 minutes to create a bonbon, but it takes a lot less time to feast on them.
Because they're easy to eat. You can just pop them into your mouth one after the other.
That's because the bonbon's bitty 1-ounce weight makes them the right size for scarfing.
For the most part, I think we're just amazed at how many you can sit there and eat at one time and just keep going and enjoy yourself.
And while these ice cream sweets are popular at the movies, bonbons are also a dream in the bedroom.
I wouldn't mind sitting at home eating bonbons. There are worse things in life you could be doing.
Today we're heading to Chicago, the second city where food comes first. After all, this is the city that was named for the Native American word for wild garlic. From trendy restaurants to ethnic favorites, Chicago's got it all. But what if you are not lucky enough to live there? Well, we're going to head to a restaurant that serves as a little reminder of all things Chicago style, especially pizza. Yummy. All across the U.S., pizza lovers can get a steaming slice of a Chicago-inspired pie from a restaurant that actually started 1,000 miles from its namesake.
Old Chicago got started back in 1976. A couple of buddies from Chicago came to Boulder and decided that they were going to open a restaurant that celebrated the pizzas that they remembered back in Chicago.
30 years later, those celebrated pizzas have gone coast to coast with 84 corporate and franchised restaurants.
We sell up to 1.6 million pizzas a year. That's about 8 million slices at Old Chicago.
Old C's Chicago-style pizzas start out a little differently than your standard pie.
One of the things that sets our dough to be unique is we use cornmeal along with wheat flour. And the cornmeal, it gives it a crisper outside texture. So as it cooks in the pan, it actually gives you almost a deep fried, crispy texture to the bottom.
The dough rises in 2 hours. Then it's topped with fresh veggies, chopped every morning. Or for the vegetable avoiders,
we have our andouille sausage made to our specifications. We cook our own beef for pizzas. It makes our pizzas a little bit better.
Finally, no pizza is complete without mozzarella. And it's sort of surprising what Old Chicago does with theirs. They grate it fresh from the block every day.
It adds a little bit of air to it. It's not crunched down. The melt is that much better as a result.
And if that's not good enough, they add a full pound of it to a single large pizza. Now that's major mozz.
We buy 2 million pounds of mozzarella a year.
8 minutes in a 450-degree oven, and the Chicago style is ready for eats. Funny thing is, there's only one Old Chicago restaurant actually in Chicago. If you're looking for authentic Chi-Town snacks, we're going to have to head back to the city to see how they make the potato chips that are a real Illinois native. From up on the north side to down around the south side,
Chicago style is really Vintners.
Since 1926, this family-owned business has churned out the snacks Chicago loves to munch and crunch. They started out by taking them straight to the people.
My grandfather, Charlie Vintner, started in the candy store business. And we used to pop too much popcorn in those candy stores, so he went out and sold that popcorn to other stores in the neighborhood.
Today, Vintners has expanded from popcorn to over 40 snacks, including their centerpiece, the potato chip. And that begins with 70,000 pounds of potatoes every day.
We use a special chipper potato. It's specially grown for only manufacturers of potato chips. It takes 4 pounds of potatoes to make 1 pound of potato chips.
After the potatoes are washed, peeled, and inspected,
it goes into a slicing system where a potato is slung to the outside of the apparatus and sliced by actually very sharp blades in a, almost like a food Vegematic type thing.
The result is an ultra-thin chip that's ready for a bath in cottonseed oil.
2,500 pounds of potato chips come out of the front of our fryer every hour of every day.
After the chips are salted, they head in different directions, where each batch receives its own unique flavoring.
Each individual packing machine actually has their own seasoning.
The seasonings are sprinkled on, and a tumbler makes sure every chip is covered.
So we can go from a plain to a barbecue to a kosher dill flavor, a sizzling hot flavor, a Louisiana hot flavor, you name it. We have a lot of flavors here.
We have developed flavors just for the Chicagoland area, and we can actually zero in and tweak different flavors for different parts of the community.
Hot seems to be something that Chicagoland loves to have, and we'll send them all the hot they can eat.
And someone will have to send them to you if you don't live close, because vintners are only sold within 100 miles of Chicago.